Hi Year 8, hope you're all well. So this is just a follow-up video. This is on the recipe problems. So I've done another one on inverse proportion, so go back and have a watch on that one. This is just for the recipe questions. Now the recipe questions are quite nice because it's basically just stuff that we've seen in everyday life. If you do a bit of cooking at home or if you've seen a recipe book before, it's maths that kind of can be quite easily applied to the real world. So in this example, a recipe makes four portions of potato soup. Richard follows the recipe but wanted to make 16 portions. Complete the required ingredients. So here I've got it serves 4, these are the ingredients, and here I've got serves 16. So quite simply, this is almost kind of that direct proportion where I can just check what I've had to do to get from this column here to this column here. So if I've got this serves 4 and I want to serve 16, all I'm going to do is say, okay, 4 to 16, that means I'm going to have to do 4 lots of this. So 4 lots of this proportion to get to the serve 16. So therefore, I can, with each of these, multiply each one by 4. Say 40 millilitres will be then 160 millilitres. 50 onions will be 200 onions, or 200 grams of onions. 300 grams of potatoes will become 1200 grams of potatoes. And 550 milk will become 2200 millilitres of milk. So we're just basically multiplying the whole thing by 4. We can see that if it serves 4 and it needs to serve 16, we can see the relationship there is it's times by 4. Therefore, we times all of these by 4. On to this question, slightly different. Recipe to make flapjacks is below. If I use 50 grams of oats, how many flapjacks am I making? So this makes 10 flapjacks, and I've got 250 grams of marge, 180 of sugar, 110 milliliters syrup, 250 of oats, and 50 grams of sultanas. So I've got this relationship here between 250 grams of oats, but now I'm going to be using only 50 grams of oats. So the relationship there, I need to work out what that relationship is. There's 250 grams of oats. Now I'm using 50 grams. So I'm actually dividing the amount of oats I'm using by 5. I've got 5 times less grams here of oats. So that's dividing by 5. Therefore, if I want to know how many flapjacks I'm making 5 times less. So I'm going to divide 10 by 5. And that's going to be 2 flapjacks. So there's lots of different varieties of this question, but they generally are quite nice. Sometimes it won't be particularly nice numbers. So just like in the inverse proportion examples, sometimes you might have to go down to 1 to then get back up to a different number. If, for example, this was, if this was kind of not particularly nice numbers and the numbers didn't fit very nicely, if I couldn't divide 10 by 5, what you can always do is work out how much ingredients you would use for 1 flapjack and then multiply that out by how many flapjacks you're making. So you can always go back to 1 portion of something and then multiply it back out. So if you're stuck on any of that, let me know, but hopefully the recipe questions I don't think will be as hard as the inverse proportion. Okay, so give those a go and remember to send me across your work. All right, thanks, Year 8. Cheers.